Before we get into the video, please do not send hate to anybody mentioned in this video. All opinions are my own and opinions are not facts. Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today is a part 7 of my Without a Crystal Ball series. This is all of the drama and tea surrounding the Tati Westbrook lawsuit that she filed against Katie Joy from Without a Crystal Ball. This will be a 2-part ending to this series. Today is part 7 and part 8 will be uploaded exactly 2 days from now. So if you're watching this in the future, I will link part 8 in the description box down below. I recorded this entire video and I was just going to have it as one long video, but it got way too long, so I decided to break it into a 2-part ending and surprise you guys with an extra video this week since I have been gone for a while. The reason I haven't kept up with this lawsuit is because stuff got too crazy for me. There were a lot of declarations and filings happening. I was getting super confused, and when the threats started happening, that got a little too serious for me, and I just didn't feel comfortable covering that part of this lawsuit. But if you are new to my channel, you heard that right. This is a part 7. So that means there is a part 1, a part 2, a part 3, a part 4, a part 5, and a part 6 to this series. So if you have not seen any of those, I highly recommend watching those before you get into this video so that you are not lost. And I will link all of those videos in the description box down below. And before we get deep into the video, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and turn on all post notifications so you don't miss any uploads in the future. Now, let's get into part 7 because I know a lot of you have been waiting very patiently. So in my last video, we got into Katie's response to Tati where they filed to get the court to dismiss the lawsuit based on jurisdiction. We got into declarations from Katie and her attorney. We also got into Tati, James, and Salty's declarations that were in response to Katie's request to dismiss based on lack of jurisdiction. And lastly, we got into a declaration that talked about Lori Ann, a subscriber of Katie's that was from Seattle. Shortly after I dropped my last video, there was a new filing that surprised everyone, and Lori Ann, someone who was loyal to Katie, completely flipped sides and did a declaration in favor of Tati Westbrook. In this declaration, Lori talked about what Katie would ask her to do behind the scenes. She talked about mass flagging channels and just all kinds of ridiculous things that she would help Katie with. After that declaration dropped, things got absolutely crazy. There were attempts of hacking, crazy threats that seriously made me sick to my stomach, and things just got completely out of control. But we're going to skip over all of that since it really doesn't matter at this point since the court has made its decision. But if you want to hear more about the other things that we are skipping over, I will link some good videos in the description box down below so that you can catch up on that part of this lawsuit. So before we get deep into the court's decision, on March 14th, the day before the court documents came out, Miss Katie Joy was already back to starting up drama with people online, and she decided once again to come for Nick Snider and Dustin daily. Katie tweeted out the following. Hey, remember when Dustin and Nick harassed me so badly and gloated about my lawsuit, then gleefully enjoyed pushing me to the edge of my mental health while laughing that I would sue them? Aren't they now threatening lawsuits, yet criticized me for doing the same? So the reason Katie put out this tweet was because Dustin and Nick were fighting with another YouTuber online. I don't know the full story behind it, but apparently Nick and Dustin were going back and forth with another creator that uploads frequent videos about them, and Nick had said something to this creator about sending out cease and desist and referenced Tati's lawsuit against Katie. So Katie saw this as a perfect opportunity to stir up drama and make herself into this victim. Now, if you watch my channel on a regular basis, you guys know that I have had some issues with Dustin daily. So my opinion on him isn't all that great. And as far as Nick goes, I still respect him as a fellow creator. But even though I've had my own issues with Dustin, I will say the tweet Katie put out in reference to both Nick and Dustin is just bullshit. bullshit. Katie is the one that has continuously stirred up unnecessary drama with both of them. And if you have watched this whole series, I am sure you guys will agree that Katie is always the one that is taking jabs and threatening both Nick and Dustin. And this situation is no different. Nick ended up taking a screenshot of Katie's tweet because Nick is blocked like the rest of us, and he said the following: "Not her trying to jump in and make this all about her. We would actually have a case. You just have a case against yourself. Enjoy that." Katie then responded with the following tweet: "Nick Snider, I'm not scared of you. I'm tired of you and Dustin gleefully defaming and harassing me. You can sit and pick on a tiny channel. You always go after people you feel superior because you are a damn coward." Nick then responded with the following tweet: "I thought someone who was in their own lawsuit and someone who allows their husband to go on live streams referring to trans women as chicks would said something. Shut up and worry about yourself, Katie." Nick then quote tweeted his tweet and he said, "But then again, I wouldn't expect anything less from someone like you. While I'm here, is this you?" And then he played the following video. I'm just going to play a short portion of it so that you guys have some context.
She probably got a nasty old coat. I'm having trouble determining if it's a man or a woman. I know you keep saying it's a woman, but it looks like a man to me.
Katie then responded with the following tweet: "Nick and Dustin sending their attack dogs after smaller channels is what they have always done. They seek to destroy anyone smaller than them by spreading lies about them. It's mean girl. They beg for grace when they are attacked due to illness. I was and not one of you stopped." Nick then responded with "This you" and played the following video.
Ever going to be starting drama with people. I don't really want to do that I don't want to be engaging in that kind of behavior. I don't want to be on YouTube to fight with other creators or to try to hurt somebody else's channel at my gain.
Katie then responded with the following tweet: "Newsflash, I don't care if people talk about me. I know I talk about other people. I'm not a victim. I share my opinion or my side of the story without being gaslit into silence. Make a million more videos about me. I don't care, but I can respond if I want to." And then apparently Katie went on a live stream and started talking about Nick some more, and Nick put out the following tweet: "Just heard Without a Crystal Ball was live trying to tell everyone I leaked her lawsuit in the fall. LOL. Girl, I'd pay for those documents." Katie also said, "I came into the scene and refused to push fake narratives. They thrive off pushing fake narratives for influencers because they get fed info by them. It's been obvious they don't care about the truth for a long time." And then Nick quote tweeted that and said, "Remind me again of why you're being sued without a crystal ball." It's just so funny that she said that because she literally pushed us fake narratives all the time. She's so hypocritical in the things that she says. Again, this all went down the day before the court filed its decision, and you would think after she hears the court's decision, she would calm down with everything. But let me tell you guys, things are only going to get worse from this point. On March 15, 2021, the court made a decision on Katie's request to dismiss the lawsuit based on lack of jurisdiction. The judge ended up granting the dismissal. I think it's safe to say that a lot of us were surprised by the decision. I tweeted out as a joke the day this happened, saying the judge probably threw this out because both of the attorneys were driving the judge crazy with all the filings. Like I said, it was a joke, but I seriously think that might have had weight on the judge's decision because the judge didn't even look at discovery before making their decision. I want to play a clip from Emily Baker's stream the day that the court documents came out, where she talks about how the court didn't grant discovery, because I agree with her thoughts on the situation. Roll the clip.
Babs did not grant discovery to get into the jurisdiction, because a lot of times they'll be like, I am not seeing it, but we need discovery to see how much happened in Washington, because there is how many subs. Let's get the back end analytics. Let's look at it. The court didn't do that. The court said GFO. Out, get out. Oh God, get out of my court. Get out. So to me, the court not granting discovery with regard to jurisdiction shows that the court is not inclined to invest the resources it would take to deal with these two attorneys fighting back and forth. I don't think she wanted to do, she said it, I'm not devoting the resources to answer these questions about sanctions. I don't want to do it. No. So a lot of you asked me over and over, could the strategy of Brown filing all these motions just be to annoy the judge so that she gets rid of jurisdiction? And I've always said, I mean, it could be. Anything's possible. Will it work? The judge is going to rule on the law, but the facts on the law in this case was never clear. It was always going to be interesting to see, and I've always said it's going to be interesting to see what the court does on jurisdiction. We will see if the play to get jurisdiction bounced out of Washington pays off, because if the law in Minnesota is not as favorable to KJ, it's, you win the battle, but what's next? Could the strategy of Brown been, I think that the facts go on our side with regard to personal jurisdiction, but factual determinations go both ways and the court can rule either way. So do we heighten this litigation to the point where the court is just like, I'm not dealing with, what I'm not doing is going back and forth and dealing with any of you. So file hundreds of pages of I'm not dealing with it. Could that have been a tactic? Sure, it could have. Because anything's possible. Because the court didn't grant discovery. The court said, get out. So do I think the court's annoyed as with these two parties? Yep. And the court has an option to pull the escape hatch. The court vented out of this case, like 100%.
So I found that really interesting, and I agree with Emily's thoughts on the situation. Now, there was also a denial of sanctions that Katie's side filed against Tati's attorney, which isn't shocking that the judge denied that, and I am glad the judge denied that. Katie has been trying to get Salty in trouble ever since this case started. She has also been saying since the beginning that he was doing things that could get him disbarred. She has publicly smeared him on her various platforms, accusing him of so many things. Now, Katie ended up going live the day of this filing. She seemed very confident and happy with the order, which isn't surprising. I mean, in all fairness, if that was your goal and it worked in your favor, I think anyone would be happy with the court's decision.
Something that has been in my life for several months has been decided upon and has been dismissed. So I'm not here to really address any comments or questions. I'm just going to share with you what happened in the court, as well as just say that I'm pleased with the court's decision. So in October of 2020, Tati Westbrook and James Westbrook filed a lawsuit against me in Washington State with a variety of claims, which we did not respond to. Instead, we requested a dismissal due to lack of jurisdiction because they decided to sue me in Washington.
She then goes on to talk about the coverage on YouTube regarding the case. Before I play the clip, I do want to say, was there a lot of uploads happening all across YouTube in regards to this lawsuit? Yes, absolutely there was. And honestly, I couldn't even imagine seeing upload after upload after upload about myself on not only smaller channels, but also larger platforms. It must have been hard dealing with the constant negativity, but with that being said, I personally feel like Katie brought a lot of it on herself because she couldn't stay quiet. If you have been here since the beginning and have watched the entire series on Katie, she has started fight after fight after fight with so many creators on this platform that could have been avoided. She uploaded 1 or 2 apologies, blamed others for her own mistakes, and then removed the apologies and went back to her normal ways. I honestly believe if Katie didn't do so many creators so dirty, this could have went in a totally different direction, and I don't think coverage would have gotten as big as it did. But here's what Katie had to say about it. Roll the clip.
There's been a lot of channels that have covered this and people confident that my dismissal would not be granted. I have been relatively quiet and not responding to so much that's been said. There has been consistent uploads on nearly every aspect of this case, and it's been hard to be quiet, especially when people are saying a lot of things about you that may or may not be true, but I knew and I had full confidence in what my attorney had requested with the court. We were confident that it would be dismissed because we felt we had a very compelling argument, and we also believed that based on that argument, the judge would rule in our favor. There was a lot that happened online that was really felt very overwhelming to me at times. Having so many eyes on me was extremely taxing, and I had a lot of anxiety, but I just stayed steadfast in my confidence in my attorney, knowing that my attorney was very experienced with cases like this, as well as managing jurisdictional issues. So I was trying very hard to really just ignore all of this outside stuff, as hard as that was. And there were days that it was harder than others. So the only thing that was really hard for me during this time were there were so many just online opinions and personal attacks at my attorney that I felt like I wanted to scream and yell and like defend him. And I just want to say that thank you to my attorney, Michael Brown. We believed that this was the right choice based on what we were looking at and so forth. And I am just incredibly happy with this result today.
She then went into reading the court's decision, and I'm going to play a small part of this for you guys just so that you can see her reaction to everything, including the denial for sanctions. Check it out.
Court grants defendant's motion to dismiss for lack of personal jurisdiction and denies my motion for sanctions, and this is the reasoning for follows. So the sanctions denial was partially like disappointing for us, but I'll get to it in a second, but the denial does do it without, the denial was without prejudice, meaning that we can eventually, it just means like it could be filed a second time. But we were so confident that this would happen that we felt like financially it made more sense to do something that we felt had a higher probability of being dismissed than putting my money and my resources into something that had a potential of not being dismissed. And court judges, specifically in cases like this, don't generally like to dismiss cases without seeing evidence or discovery. And because we knew that the best action to take was the dismissal on personal jurisdiction. So I'm sure my critics will say a lot of different things here, but right now there is not any cases going on, and this case specifically is closed. I know there's people out there that will say that this isn't over or whatever, and that's not, none of that, like, all of this outside noise really does not matter to me because this specific issue that we were dealing with, which was what we were dealing with here, is resolved. I'm very happy with the outcome.
She then gets on her soapbox and talks about how other YouTubers are being sued and that when things like this happen, the community as a whole should support those that are going through similar situations because we all have a right to freedom of speech. And I have a lot that I want to say to this, but watch the clip first. Check it out.
I've seen that other YouTubers are threatening lawsuits. I see that other YouTubers are being sued. And I just want to temper the community that when you see someone being sued for defamation or for slander or libel, the last thing that we should be doing as creators is reveling in the lawsuit and gleefully gloating and enjoying someone else being sued, because at any time, any one of us could become a party to a lawsuit. We should want to protect freedom of speech. We should want to protect freedom of the press, and we should want to support other people that are being sued. So even though some of my critics are now being sued, I would not ever gleefully enjoy their lawsuits because lawsuits are stressful. They are very difficult. They are expensive, and they really do they take you to a level and to a place that can be very dark, and it can put in tremendous amount of stress on your family. And it can cause families to break up. It can cause people to go bankrupt. Nobody should ever want that for anyone.
I just find this funny considering she was practically jumping for joy when she reported that Clark Swanson was suing Tati Westbrook. That's the thing with Katie. As long as it isn't happening to her, it's okay for her to do it. But as soon as the tables are turned, she is constantly pleading with everyone to not do it. And this is with everything that Katie does. The hypocrisy with Katie is just through the roof. And that's with everything that she does. It would be a different story if she goes through these experiences and realizes how it feels once the tables are turned and actually makes a change for the better once she is out of hot water. But it never fails. Every single time the heat is off Katie, she ends up going back to her old ways. Now, you guys know since the beginning of this, Katie has had a lot of hate towards Emily D. Baker. And I've always believed that it has been jealousy because Emily grew off not only Katie's lawsuit, but she also grew off of the Swanson lawsuit. And I think that drove Katie absolutely crazy because if Tati had never filed the suit against Katie, then Katie would have been able to continue to report on the Swanson suit. And Katie ends this video with taking jabs at Emily. And in this next clip, you can clearly see that Katie has been very jealous of Emily this entire time. Check it out.
I'm going to feel good about where I'm at today. I'm not going to listen to the noise of what other people's opinions are about me. And I have not spent a lot of time worrying about what other YouTube lawyers were saying and why they felt like this wasn't going to get dismissed. And my only recommendation would be to the lawyers that did cover this, to present less opinion when presenting this, and also to be very clear with your audience whether your experience lies within a specific legal jurisdiction issues or whether you do civil versus criminal. Civil cases are so different than criminal cases, which is why I will say there were a couple channels, Uncivil Law being one of them. He was by far the fairest in that he understood the complexities of civil cases and was pretty clear that he felt like this case would be dismissed. And I think Nate Brody also, for the same part, felt like it would be dismissed as well. I can't say why Emily was so confident that it not be dismissed, nor can I say why Emily repeatedly promoted various ideas that I might get arrested or whatever. Like, her opinions are her opinions. And I just want to remind people that even if you continue to enjoy watching her, just remember they are her opinions. She's not a party. She's not in the lawsuit. She's not an attorney representing the lawsuit. She is not licensed in the state that I was being sued. She did not practice civil law in that state, nor did she practice civil law in the state of California. It was more profitable for people to view this, to want me to lose. It was not profitable for people to be on my side. So for those creators, for those of you that did stick up for me, thank you. For those creators that have stood by me, thank you. For those creators that have publicly or privately messaged me, thank you. I really do appreciate it. I know that it's not easy, especially when everyone hates you or the masses want that person to be the villain. It's hard. So, don't send hate to any of the channels that have covered me. It was never a competition about who had more views or that Emily had 8,000 million people in her live chats. That never concerned me. All that ever concerned me was that I knew and I felt confident in what was going to happen. And that's what mattered.
After Katie posted this video, she ran over to her Twitter and put out the following tweet. Case dismissed. I am very pleased that the court granted our motion to dismiss in Tati and James Westbrook's defamation lawsuit against me. Thank you for all your support over the past several months. I'm grateful for today's decision and look forward to moving on. And then someone responded to Katie and said, going live and posting this shows that you haven't learned one thing from this. They can refile. Even if they don't, you are still one of the most hated people on YouTube. Infamy is not worth it. It's time to reflect and make some changes. And then Katie responded with, LOL. Plenty of people have shared the documents. I wanted to show for my channel the result, nothing more. I did not disparage or defame anyone. Thanks. And then the person replied with, I never said you did, but you don't have to say anything yet, especially since things can change again. And even Nick Snider chimed in on this, and he said, she means moving on, as in the case could potentially be filed in Minnesota, which I have heard is much stricter when it comes to the courts. Best of luck. And y'all, you would think since the decision was literally just filed, she would stop there and not dig a deeper hole for herself, since at this point she had absolutely no idea whether or not Tati was going to refile. But oh no, it definitely didn't stop there. She then quote tweeted somebody else's tweet about uncivil law, and she said the following. This right here, thank you uncivil law for your ability to see through all the mess to the reality of the laws in play. Then a couple hours later, she tweets out the following. If any creators do care, I would truly think it would make Lori's life so much easier if the videos about her would be removed. These I know caused her considerable to her mental health. I think she meant to say these I know caused harm to her mental health. And then she went on to say they were found not to be relevant to the case for jurisdiction. Thank you. And then a couple people replied to her calling her out, and they said, didn't you throw Lori under the bus? And someone else replied, she certainly did, but now she's all concerned. Liar. And me personally, I think she was wanting people to take the videos about Lori Ann down so that there were less videos about her on the internet. I don't think it has anything to do with any concern for Lori Ann. That's just my personal opinion. But it's quite obvious that Katie doesn't do anything without ulterior motives. She always thinks about herself and nobody else but herself. So usually if she is like fighting for someone, there's a reason for it. And then about 20 minutes later, she put out the following tweet. Many people are concerned about the legal future of the case. The case in Washington is dismissed. The declarations filed were not found to be relevant to proving personal jurisdiction. What happens in the future, I can't control. No matter what happens, I remain confident. Thanks. And then she took about a 6-hour break and came back to Twitter at 8:51 p.m. with the following tweet. Police were here again tonight. A woman admitted on Twitter to calling the authorities to report fraud. Police came today from reports of not having my child in school, forcing him to have a feeding tube, misusing public funds, and child all unfounded. She then followed it up with, according to the police, the woman did not live in state and also didn't claim to know us. Because this is the second false report, they said we can consider pressing charges. This is what doxing looks like. It needs to stop. And then 3 minutes later, she put out the following tweet. A woman named D admitted to calling the police and encouraged others to report me. This is the 5th time they've came out on baseless calls. You are wasting taxpayers' money. And she posted a bunch of screenshots with it that I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you can pause to read if you want to. And then she started replying to people. I don't know what this person said because the tweets have been deleted, but she basically said, I have the police at my house. And then she also said that CPS might be coming too because they have accused me of Munchauskins by proxy. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I did my best, you guys. And then 20 minutes later, she put out the following tweet. Not only are false reports a crime, tonight the police being here greatly upset my son, who screamed and yelled. These repeated baseless threats are scaring my child and causing him trauma. We have a whole team helping us. He's in public school and we have nurses. Leave us alone. And that seems to be the end of her tweets from March 15th. And before I move on to the next day, this is what I'm going to say. I find the timing of the police showing up very convenient. I mean, come on, what are the odds of you getting really good news about a lawsuit being dismissed and someone calling the cops on you for neglecting your child all in the same day? I am sorry, but I question everything that Katie does. If the police truly showed up, why are you blasting it online? And how can they just dismiss serious claims like that in a short time span? If someone is accusing you of stuff like she is claiming, there has to be a full CPS investigation into it. I don't know. You guys, maybe it actually happened, but like I said, I question everything with Katie. But I will say, if someone actually did call the police on her, please just stop. It's going way too far. I don't believe Katie would make up illnesses about her son, and I don't believe that there is actual abuse happening in their home. I know a few months back, Katie was on a live and her husband was yelling at her son, and I totally understand being concerned in situations like that, but don't call the police on people unless there is some serious shit happening right in front of your face. But like I said, I find the timing very convenient. Now moving on, Katie did quiet down on Twitter after the last tweet, but her silence didn't last for long. On March 16th, the next day, around 1 p.m., Katie put out the following tweet. Channels jumping on stories without doing any research nor investigating the claims are very, very dangerous on YouTube. While I was accused of being a liar, which I did not lie nor defame anyone, many people ran with false allegations as truth against me. Make this make sense. And then she also said, I was falsely accused of perjury, criminal witness tampering, hacking, threatening witnesses, destruction of evidence, and using trolls to do my dirty work. None of these are true, and there was never evidence to support these claims. I had zero risk of arrest for any of that. Trolls inserted themselves into my life. I received death threats against me and my son for weeks. During this hate mob, there was never anyone looking at the other side that maybe what was being said about me wasn't true. It wasn't profitable for anyone to look at the truth. Before I move on to the next tweet, I just want to say I have no doubt that she received like massive hate. I have no doubt that she received serious threats either during everything, because people do go too far, especially when you are under a lot of heat on YouTube or being canceled. That is why I speak up against cancel culture all the time, because people do take it way too far and they just don't stop. But with that being said, stop tweeting it out and talking about it constantly, because one, you're just bringing attention to people that should be ignored, and two, if things truly got that bad, why did you never take a real break? I mean, upload your videos if you have to make some money, but going on Twitter and Instagram every single day is just so unnecessary. It isn't something that you have to do to bring in income. Take a true mental break. Upload your edited videos and spend time with your family away from the noise. That's what most people do when things get to be too much, and she never really did that. But moving on to the next tweet, thank you to all the creators, both big and small, that have reached out to offer me support over the past several months. I know it's hard to stick by someone under attack, but there are amazing creators out there that have been so amazing to me, and I'm so grateful. Don't lose hope. And then a few hours later, she put out the following tweet. I want to be clear about one thing that people seem to be confused about. I do not know Natalie. I have never spoken to her on any media outside of a single message exchange on Instagram when the attacks began. We have forwarded everything to the FBI. And then she also said, I have not disclosed the amount of horrific threats that have been sent since all this started, nor have I disclosed what was happening in the investigation. I don't know who is hacking, but I know with certainty it was never me and that Natalie lied about her relationship with me. I refuse to be guilted or shamed for not being sympathetic to someone that repeatedly lied about her relationship about me and slandered me with those lies, accusing me of child and medical, my husband and I of child abuse, and lied about my marriage. And then several hours later at 8:54 p.m., she put out the following tweet. For the last time to anyone that needs to hear this, I am not under criminal investigation by the FBI. I am not facing any criminal charges and I am not going to jail for anything. This is a false narrative that needs to stop. Thank you. And then about 45 minutes later, she hops on a live stream, and this is where she opens a whole can of worms with Emily D. Baker, which brings us into our next segment of this video. On March 16th, Katie went live on her second channel in a video that was titled Answering Your Burning Questions. This video started out with easy questions that Katie was answering, but towards the end, she really started going in on Emily D. Baker. Check it out.
I don't think that Emily Baker helped at all, and I think her coverage was detrimental and really disparaging to me. Emily Baker as a whole was not honest with her audience. We reached out to her multiple times to provide her with our side, given that she was clearly in communication with the other side. We felt it would only be fair that if she was going to cover this and have such a wide audience to cover it, that she have a balanced approach and a balanced access so that the audience could be given both sides without bias. And we presented her an option to have access to that so that she could provide both sides without bias, and she never responded. And I have copies of those emails. You know, we attempted multiple times to reach out to her because the way that the coverage was presented, it was so unfavorable. And every minute mistake that happened on our end was scrutinized, but glaring issues that happened on the other side were easily dismissed and thrown under the radar, you know? And I repeatedly asked her to be honest with her audience that she was not being truthful and that we had reached out to her, and not being truthful that we were offering her both sides. I think if you're going to deliver that, and say that she was not talking to the other side, but she was talking to the other side. We saw thousands, hundreds of tweets back and forth between her and the other side engaging constantly. But she would not engage with us. And then she would tweet out disparaging things about me. And she was one of the people that was consistently promoting ideas like I could go to jail or I could be arrested. And those were simply not true. So if you're going to cover a case and tell your nerd people and build your audience on disparaging someone, and that person is offering you the option to have access to things that nobody else was having access to, and you decline it and you don't even respond.
Okay, so there are a few things I want to say to this before we continue. First off, the part where she said she reached out to Emily to provide her with information that nobody else had. Emily did address this on her channel, that she did not engage with any of it because there was no point, which I agree with her. Because what could Katie possibly give Emily that would have helped people see things differently? There was nothing that she could have possibly gave her, because it would have ruined the case for her and gave the other side an upper hand. You don't want to put things out publicly before you file with the court. It would be so stupid. Also, I guarantee if Emily would have engaged with Katie in any way, Katie would have taken it and twisted it to her advantage and would have backstabbed Emily in some way, because that's what Katie does every single time. She always has a motive to everything that she does. Secondly, I will admit I have not watched everything from Emily on this case. I have watched some of her streams though, and every single video that I have watched from Emily regarding the Katie Joy stuff, Emily every single time was breaking down the documents, and if something was clearly her opinion, she made it known to her audience that it was her opinion and her speculation. Even the clip that we watched a little bit ago, Emily was crystal clear every single time something was her opinion or her speculation. This is what Katie does. She takes snippets of the truth and she spins them into something else. And Katie does this with everything. And people actually believe it, because if they aren't actively watching the person that she is talking about, they're not going to know that what Katie is saying isn't true.
And she gave life and breathed life into declarations that were defamatory and had literally no reason to be in the case, and then never once told her audience that these made no sense or that they shouldn't have been there, and made people believe really terrible things. And it was just really awful to me because people were like, so can I give an example? Watch her videos. I mean, she literally, her comments from yesterday has people believing that the case was dismissed because the judge didn't want to deal with us. And that's simply not true. Or that, you know, my attorney was making mistakes that were hundreds of years old. That's also not true. Or that we missed a filing date. That's also not true. Like, or that I was at risk of being held accountable for perjury. That was not ever true. There was never any, ever a second where I was in any threat of being held criminally responsible for anything. I didn't watch her videos, but our team did. So we knew what was being said. Like, our team was watching everything.
Remember what she says right here. I didn't watch her videos. My team was watching them. That's how I know all this, blah, blah, blah. Because in about 30 seconds, she will say that she watched her videos. Check it out.
No, Emily was not fair. She was not fair. Not even in the slightest. Not even remotely fair. And if you know anything about this legal case and you understand the damage that was done because of that, people to this day still think that I'm going to be arrested. She owed me no response? Really? When she's engaging with the other side and saying that she's unbiased? You guys are delusional. You guys are gaslighting. Go back to your law nerd. I don't like her, and I'll never like her. I think I think she used this to build her channel, and she made thousands of dollars on me and off disparaging me and really not balancing it out at all. She did way more than read documents. She gave light to declarations and to defamatory statements that never should have had any light in them. I've watched what she has said, some of the videos, and it's so factually untrue. So I don't need to get anything right because literally nobody knows more about what happened in my life than I do. If any of you think that because of watching her, you know what actually happened, nobody knows. You guys know what happened in the filings, but you don't know what happens in the discussions that lead up to filings. You don't know what happens in the emails, in the phone calls. You only see what makes it to the courtroom. There was so much that she had no idea what was going on. And it's very easy to make opinions about what you see on a paper, but you have no idea what actually happened. And you'll never know. I absolutely dislike her. And she doesn't like me. And I think that's pretty obvious. She has lots of opinions about me. I've literally seen her like tweet. We have so many times, we have so much evidence of tweeting things that were so unkind and rude about me. And then you guys get so mad that I respond when she literally is saying very rude and disparaging things about me. Like, there's so much evidence that she did these things and you guys refuse to see it because of your like for her. And that's fine. I don't care. But I have had to watch someone make thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars by interacting with all of these hater accounts. And oh, shush. If you are an Emily fan, just leave. Don't subscribe to this channel. Don't follow me. Just go away. I don't care. After her family was threatened, do you know how many thousands of threatening emails I received? Don't even get me started. If this case were to move forward, she would be party to a defamation lawsuit. And that's the truth. Like, if you want to be honest, we have a lot of evidence of defamation against her. And I can't show you that.
Boy, there's just a lot of experts and very opinionated people in here today, aren't there?
So first off, did you guys catch how she said she watched her videos after she said it wasn't me watching the videos, it was my team? It's quite obvious that Katie is the one watching all of her videos, because why would you pay your team of lawyers to watch YouTube videos? Seriously, you're already spending thousands of dollars having them draft all these court documents. The last thing you're going to do is pay your attorneys to watch a lawyer on YouTube break down documents. So I call bullshit on that. It's just funny as well because she claims she doesn't watch Emily, but yet she knows Emily calls her subscribers law nerds. The other thing that I find funny is she kept mentioning how much money Emily has made off of covering this lawsuit. I think it absolutely drives Katie crazy that Emily has grown a great deal and Emily has made a good amount of money off this case. The jealousy is thick. Now moving on, Katie then starts talking about Lori-Ann and how people need to remove their videos regarding Lori-Ann, and I've said it once already, Katie could care less about Lori-Ann. She just wants people to remove their videos about herself. It has nothing to do with being concerned for Lori-Ann.
The Lori stuff was the most horrific stuff because not only was Lori extremely in a very vulnerable state, but it was brought up and it was irrelevant and it made such a big deal. And people still have these videos up about her and I wish they would pull them down. And I wish they would pull all of the videos down about all of the declarations because they were all tossed out. And I wish that people would realize that these declarations were by people that were struggling mentally, and they never should have been a part of the case. And they didn't prove anything. They had no weight on the case. They were proven irrelevant to what we were arguing. I wish Lori the best too. And I would hope creators remove their videos about her. She did not deserve any of that. She was just under such considerable stress. She would have done anything to make it stop. But what was put in that next declaration that was put out by the other side by her was completely false. But I don't think that we should be angry with her. Okay. So don't be sending hate to her. And I'm sure in a way she might be upset that I didn't stand up for her or defend her, but I couldn't say anything to anyone.
And the last part I'm going to show you guys from this video is Katie lying about Clark Swanson. This clip is seriously so funny, and later in the video you will find out why, but I will say, I can say as a fact, not an opinion, that Katie is lying in the next clip about Clark Swanson not being her source. Check it out.
I don't have a connection to this man. So I don't. I received an anonymous email. Honestly, it was from an account that I've never even seen before, an email address I'd never seen before. And it said that a lawsuit had been filed, and it was by someone named Bruce. And it was weird because as soon as I opened the email, it disappeared. So I don't know if they have one of those server things where they can make it vanish. It was the most bizarre thing because when I went back to go find the email, it was gone. There was no connection. There was never a connection. The tip-off literally came from I've always been honest. The tip-off literally came from an anonymous email. I got an email one day and it's a lawsuit was filed and something whatever. And I can't even remember, some part of Los Angeles. And you might want to check court records. So that was literally all I did was I was okay. And the first name was Bruce. And then I went back and looked and I couldn't find the email anymore.
Guys, she is such a terrible liar. So that was the highlights from her live stream, and you would think Katie would stop there, but oh no, we're talking about Katie Joy here. She jumped back over to Twitter and started going in on Emily again. In the first tweet, she said, "I said it tonight and I'll say it again. Emily Baker is and continues to be biased. Believe the lies she spews and say she just reads court records. She was clear in her dislike for me, and she has said it as much on Twitter multiple times and mocked me. She helped create the circus." And then about 5 minutes later, she tweeted out the following: "We have dozens of her tweets stored of her disparaging me, encouraging harmful lies, and suggesting I've committed crimes of perjury or destruction of evidence, which never happened. People still believe I'm going to jail because of her coverage. This was never a criminal case." And then she also said she was never interested in the truth, and she isn't licensed to practice law in Tennessee, nor has she ever tried civil cases. She's not an expert in civil law and really has no business claiming to be an attorney with expertise in these filings. Not only did she disparage me, but she routinely disparaged my attorney for minor mistakes, but always defended actions that were not professional on the other side. She even defended attorneys targeting people that dared to question them. That's not ethical, and it's disturbing. She then kept going. "Emily is a member of the bar, and it's her ethical duty to treat counsel and officers of the court with respect. And she did not treat my attorney nor judge respectfully with her audience, referring to our judge as Babs. You should always refer to her as Judge. Period." She then followed up that tweet with, "The judge did not throw anything out because she did not want to deal with it. The law was not met for jurisdiction, and every declaration was proven irrelevant to both the claims of case and jurisdiction. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk." If you have been noticing, I have been heavily focusing on dates and times throughout this entire video, and the reason for that is because everything that you have watched up until this point is in a span of about 24 to 36 hours. Katie was stirring up drama before she got the court's decision, and after she got the court's decision, things only got worse. And I also want to remind you guys, Katie had no idea at this point if Tati was going to refile. It's just crazy to me, her behavior and how she can't control herself. Okay, you guys, that's the end of part 7, and part 8 will be posted exactly 2 days from now. It is edited and ready to go because I edited this entire thing before I decided to break it into a 2-part finale. But if you're watching in the future, then part 8 is linked in the description box box down below. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of Katie's behavior. Honestly, so far it's just been reckless. At this point in time, she had no idea what Tati was going to do, and she is literally going on and on and on like she was cleared of the defamation in general. This video was literally 2 days of Katie's activity online. It's just a lot. You will hear more of my thoughts and opinions in my next video, but before I go, I want to take a second to thank all my members. Thank you to Boy Mama, The Dark Magician, Susan, Sam, Phoebes, My Love Floral Foam, Starla, Lori, Beyond Help, Leah, Stephanie, Lee Sherwin, Zales, Liz, Diana Beth, Claire S., Smiley Mama, Maury, Bugsy B, Doublemint, and Ginger Snap Girl. Thank you all so much for being members of my channel. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Comment down below what you guys thought of everything. Please like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you guys all in my next video. Bye, guys.